Netanyahu stood before the United Nations General Assembly. But the chamber was almost empty. Rows of vacant seats stretched into the distance. A silent protest from nations unwilling to hear his words. His speech echoed hollowly in the vast room. A reminder that global support was slipping through his fingers. For a brief moment, he paused, his eyes scanning the near-deserted hall. The silence was heavy, suffocating, almost accusatory. He continued to speak, but the weight of irrelevance hung over him. Then, from the African delegation, a chair scraped loudly against the marble floor. The sound pierced the silence. All eyes turned as Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso, rose to his feet. His presence was commanding, his eyes burning with conviction. The silence transformed into tension, like the air before a thunderstorm. With measured steps, he walked to the microphone reserved for interventions. His voice, when it came, was calm but carried the weight of an ancient storm. "Prime Minister Netanyahu," he began, "this war will destroy you." The words did not echo like Netanyahu's speech, they thundered, striking every corner of the chamber, forcing even the absent nations to feel their weight. Through the airwaves of global broadcast, Traoré's words were not mere rhetoric. They carried history, centuries of colonial wounds, the voice of a continent that had seen too much silence in the face of injustice. He spoke not only for Africa but for all nations, abandoned by the hypocrisy of global powers. "You wage war on the innocent," Traoré continued. "You bomb children, you destroy homes, you crush the weak. But history shows that empires built on blood never last. This war will consume you, not us." His finger pointed toward Netanyahu, not in accusation, but in prophecy. The chamber, though nearly empty, suddenly felt alive. Diplomats who had been staring at their phones now raised their heads. Journalists in the press gallery typed furiously. The cameras, which had been preparing to cut away from Netanyahu's speech, zoomed in on Traoré. On social media, the clip began spreading instantly. Within minutes, hashtags like #Traoré vs Netanyahu and #AfricaSpeaks trended across platforms. The silence of the chamber had given birth to a voice that could not be ignored. Netanyahu tightened his grip on the podium. For years, he had faced opposition, but rarely had he been confronted so directly in an international forum. He attempted to dismiss Traoré's warning. "You do not understand the realities of the Middle East," he said coldly. "Israel fights for its survival. We will not be lectured by those who have not faced our struggles." But his words fell flat. The emptiness of the hall mocked him, and the fiery conviction in Traoré's eyes made his defense sound hollow. Traoré did not sit down. Instead, he leaned closer to the microphone, his tone sharpened. "You speak of survival, but whose survival?" he asked. "A child under rubble? A mother weeping over her dead family? Do not confuse oppression with defense. Africa has known colonizers who said the same words you speak now. But Africa is still here, and justice is still here." For the first time in decades, the African delegation at the UN felt united. Traoré's defiance lit a flame that spread across the continent. Outside the UN, protests erupted worldwide. In cities from Dakar to London, people carried signs quoting Traoré's words, "This war will destroy you." For many, it was not just about Gaza or Israel. It was about the silence of Western powers, the hypocrisy of global diplomacy, and the courage of a young African leader who refused to bow. Days later, commentators described Traoré's intervention as a turning point in diplomatic history. Some called it reckless, others called it prophetic, but no one could deny its impact. Netanyahu's speech was forgotten, but Traoré's warning lived on. It echoed in the minds of those who had watched live, and it was replayed endlessly across digital platforms. History would later remember that day not for Netanyahu's words, but for the silence of the chamber and the single voice that shattered it. Captain Ibrahim Traoré did not just speak for Burkina Faso. He spoke for every nation, every oppressed people, every unheard cry. "This war will destroy you," he had said. And whether taken as warning, prophecy, or defiance, it had become a truth larger than the man who spoke it.